So we sent our son off to college, and he came home with schizophrenia.
Now our family's searching for the cure.
But in the meantime, this is how we're functioning.
I want to talk about what can happen. Father, mother, creator. Welcome back, everyone, to Functioning, brought to you by Onegun Entertainment and GTS, the end user experts. Next to me is Lovey. How you doing?
I'm really good. How about you, honey babe?
I'm good. Exciting day.
Yeah, this is exciting.
A great day for a podcast.
Yes, awesome. And who do we have with us today?
Well, we've got Helmut Wolf, a.k.a. the Wolfman from Wolf Entertainment, president, musician extraordinaire, and just an overall pretty cool guy. He's just laid back, you know?
Yeah. How you doing today, Helmut?
Good, thank you. Good to see you guys.
Thanks for joining us today. We're super excited to have you here. What we noticed, and if you guys haven't had the opportunity to view the live music event, right, that you did for us as a part of, what was it, music therapy?
Music therapy heals.
Yeah, that was a great conversation. And I don't know about you, but I got a ton of questions after that. Like, hey, we want to know more. We want to understand more. So we wanted to ask Helmut to come and take a little deeper dive into some of those conversations. So we appreciate you coming back here with us today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me back.
Yeah. So one of the questions that came up for me personally is when we're talking about can music heal or how does music heal? You said with the resounding, no, I know it can heal. And that prompted 10,000 questions for me. And I thought, what is he referring to? And do you have a specific story that you wanted to share with us regarding that comment?
Look, it's not a big insight or anything that I can share there with you, but I think we all have the experience that we are, feeling blue or feeling down, or we're not too sure what to do with our life, or a lover left us, or whatever, difficult situations that we're feeling. We don't feel good, and then music comes in, and suddenly it lifts you. It brings you up to a higher level. And that's really the basis of it. Now, from there, you can go into all kinds of different forms of music therapy. I mean, I know a friend of mine in California that he has a bed, and that bed is filled with crystals, so it's liquid crystals. And then you have headphones on, and you play music that is related to the chakras, and that goes through the headphones. You hear it, but it also gets pumped into the crystals, and so your body vibrates in those notes or into those frequencies, which then stimulates those chakras. So there are many, many different ways how to apply music and healing.
Wow, that is really amazing. In fact, I did have a couple of questions regarding frequencies and actually even chakras. So I'm going to follow up with that here in a moment. But did you have any questions?
Well, I was just going to say, we forgot to mention that Helmut is in France, everyone.
Yeah.
Okay, he is not here in the U.S.
Between Germany and France, but right now I'm in France, yeah.
Okay. How often are you going back between the two?
Oh, basically all the time. It's like I have a residency in near Hamburg and a residency down here. I have my studio down here, so when I do studio work, I'm down here.
Mm. Now, let's talk about the difference between France and Germany. Are you noticing, because in the future we're going to do a podcast based on cultures. I didn't know it might, flourish into continents, but, every place is different. Even here, someone with, I feel like someone with schizophrenia, maybe in the West Coast might be a little different than, someone in the East Coast. Or maybe there's a scenario for each region we haven't tapped into. But have you noticed a difference with, I guess related to mental illness between France and Germany? Yeah.
Between Germany and France, I don't know so much about mental illness, but in general, the Germans are a bit more uptight. The French are a little bit more what you call laissez-faire. It's okay. On the other hand, the Germans are more organized, and the French are a lot less organized and more disorganized. So it balances out against each other, I guess. In terms of mental illness, it's difficult to say. Look, for me personally, the way I see it is a lot of mental illness has to do with unexpressed emotions, and that the thinking, the mind flow, the belief system, and what's going on emotionally, it just doesn't work anymore together, you know. And so the emotions go in that directions, and the thinking goes in that direction, and you have kind of a split between personality in between. So you have forgotten to come back to the center and to come from there in terms of your emotions, in terms of your thinking, and you can then deal with it from your center. So, but if that is a difference in different countries, I can't say. I mean, look, Africa, I'm sure they have very different mental state in African countries than in Europe. Europeans are much more freaked out and stressed, you know. What is done, they probably deal more with poverty or so you can't say it's like this in this society and this in that society.
So you mean more freaked out and stressed than Americans?
Yeah.
You know what we have going on here right now. But anyway.
I know. That's another podcast, right? But I'm glad that you mentioned... Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned kind of that unexpressed emotion, because I don't know if you're familiar with this, with the work, and I'm going to get her name and share it with you, but she did a really good TED Talk, and it was called People Who Hear Voices. And her philosophy really aligns with yours in that, you know, she felt like her voices were her unexpressed emotions that were communicating. She actually is over in London. So I wonder, is that kind of, and to be honest, that's not something that we typically think about here in the US. Sadly for us, when we think about the stigma of schizophrenia, you know, I feel like there's three schools of thought, right? You either need to be medicated, you need to get an attitude adjustment, or you need Jesus, right? Like those are areas that the U.S. kind of lands around this topic, you know? And so that was a really new kind of concept, and she was from London. So I wonder, is that a school of thought that may be different culturally than?
At the institute I was working in and living in the 80s, where a lot of my experiences in that world came from, as like a 10-year intensive of working on myself and finding out who are you. And I was doing it in this community, and part of the community in Holland, part of the community was you were training, or I was training to be a therapist myself. So then after 3 years of training, I started to also teach classes and teach groups. And for many years then traveled Europe, in parts of the world doing workshops. Now, where this sort of school of thinking comes from, I can't really say, but it is really my experience that people who are emotionally, let's say, stuck, they never were allowed to be angry. They never were allowed to be sad. They just had to, you have to be like this, and this is society, and that's how you have to be. And, it messes with your head, and after a while, your thinking goes into another direction, and when they're not got together anymore, that's really when mental illness comes in. I know for myself, I spent thousands and thousands, and literally thousands of hours in a group room, screaming, "No, I hate you. If you hurt me again, I kill you." All these trigger sentences we used to use to go into your unconscious mind to pull up the emotions, unexpressed emotions, scream them out, and while you scream them out, you literally relive them. The more the film runs off in your head. And so you scream it out, and then when the thought was, there was nothing, like the well was empty, you go back to the sentence, and you scream, and then something else gets pulled up out of the unconscious mind. So I spent, for 2 years, every night we were doing what's called the spitting meditation. So before dinner, you sit in front of a bucket, you stick your tongue out, and you go, and you keep doing that until you literally throw up. And what is amazing is you throw up all this shame, all this guilt, all this stuff that you, every time somebody says do this and you're learning it, you didn't want to do it, but you had to do it, and you do it and you swallow the shit. So emotional release is incredibly helpful in that sense to, I think, have a sound mind, because you're not anymore, let's say, run by your emotions. You can still get angry. I still get angry, but at least now I can actually see it. I'm angry. I can watch it, and I also can switch it off. Or let it out if I decide to, I want to be angry right now. But it's not anymore that the emotion, depending on the situation, is controlling me. And I think most people don't have that experience. They're never allowed to express their emotions, but they keep definitely happening in your unconscious mind. Okay, and then you have all these positive thoughts that they don't hook up with what's going on emotionally, and that can really easily lead to mental illness.
Yeah, and this is all dealing with the mind, right? So you went in there with one mentality. What happened when you finished, when you came out? Did you say it was, how long? Did you say years?
I was 10 years there.
10 years. So you remember your frame of mind when you went in. That's a long time.
Well, the thing was, when I started this process, I had completely no idea, actually, of who I am underneath the normal layer that we operate in. Okay? I had completely no idea. I did a 48-hour marathon. It's a 48-hour workshop where you meditate, do emotional release, scream, dance, have sex. It's like about 80 people, and there was a wild situation. And you don't eat for 48 hours. You just go on and go deeper and deeper. And that whole concept comes from the therapeutic community school of thought from the States. So when they were working with junkies, and they have an hour session and they don't break through and they have 2 hour session, they don't break through. So they extended that up to 48-hour marathons. And I remember the day after this first 48-hour, I came, I walked through Cologne, and they call it the veil. It felt like the veil had come off. It felt like for the first time in my life, I saw trees. For the first time in my life, I really saw people. I saw the sky. It's like the veil had lifted. And from then on, it kind of was a 10-year experience, and going into this commune, and then first training and being part of the commune, and then becoming one of the teachers, and then teaching other people to meditate and to do emotional release and whatever techniques we were using. So that after 10 years, Marvin, I felt like, okay, I want to get out of the community now. I want to live in the world, in the normal world, because 10 years community is kind of weird. It's kind of weird, Then I went to Australia. I had a job in Australia in Byron Bay, and got stuck down under 24 years, which was a really exciting experience for me to come out, because by then everything had become therapy. Everything had become a learning experience. Everything had become, I can use this as a mirror. And that has never left me. I don't have to live in the commune anymore to experience that.
Yeah,
wow.
We know there's a whole industry, which it leads up to this as we're talking, surrounding the music therapy, aka sound healing.
Mm-hmm.
These music therapists use the techniques that's helping their patients in a lot of areas, and even people after surgeries and neuropathologies such as Alzheimer's disease.
Yeah.
I mean, did you experience a lot of that? And I know I'm sticking to this kind of compound scenario that you were in.
Yeah.
What type of music was used in there? Like for during some of the sessions, was it silent? Was there, just sound music? Was there vocals attached? What was
Look, we used obviously tapes and just normal sound system, but I had always because I was next to doing that, I was always a musician, and I had a studio there and was producing music, but I also had a band there. We toured Europe 3-4 times a year, in Spain, Switzerland, and did the tour around. I was finished in East Berlin, which was the best. It's actually in Berlin the night the wall came down. We had a gig there that night, and after the gig, we have an after party, and somebody says the wall is open, and it's one morning hammering around the pieces of the outdoors of the wall. But then was the best.
Tumbling down.
Exactly. But what I wanted to say is, so I just finished my train of thought. What I was saying is, I had this band, this live band, and a big part of what we were doing was we were playing live music during the therapy sessions. So if there was a therapy session, that the therapist would run them through an anger exercise. I fucking hate you. No, we had this different technique. You hold on to somebody and you scream sentences. So if they wanted to get them into anger, we played angry music. Okay? And if they wanted to get into a feeling of pain and sorrow, we played painful music. And if they wanted to get into a hard space, and I walk around and say 100 people, 200 people, I love you, and look them in the eye and then hug them, we played loving music. So I think we were probably the musicians at that time, that's in the 80s, that had the biggest and longest experience of live music for therapy, so to say, because it did this years and years and years, day after day after day.
Wow, that sounds amazing. And you're saying some just amazing stuff, and I want to make sure that our audience understands, is this organization or this style of therapy, is it still something that they can tap into? Can you say the name of the organization or the style of therapy again, just to make sure we got it?
It's called a Humaniversity. Humaniversity, and it's in Holland. It's in Holland, in Ekman. They still exist, yeah. The founder and leader, who was my teacher and friend, she passed on. And the lady who was starting it up together with somebody, she lives now in Berlin, but some of the other people who have been helping to run the place for many years, but are now in charge and running it.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, one of the things you mentioned in the music therapy, which, by the way, I'm going to start calling you guys not just musicians, but also therapists, right? And then it sounds like I can go to see live music and bands and call it a therapy session. That's what I'm going to start referring to now. But one of the things that, I scour the internet all the time looking for a cure for schizophrenia. And one of the things that I ran across, and I want to make sure to call it out properly, was it's called self-help beats. And they actually have a frequency that is designed to, let me make sure to read it. It says that it's music therapy for schizophrenia, the schizophrenia disorder, and paranoia. And apparently, so I gave it to our son, right? Thinking, yeah, let's try and listen to this. And I haven't gotten feedback, so I'll let the audience know what his thought is. But it just really made me start thinking about like that frequency and where the healing begins. And one of the questions I wanted to ask Onegun, and just so you know, yes, that was another question that came out of the session. Who's Onegun? So let's talk about that. So for everybody in our life, you guys know Honey Babe, right? This is Honey Babe. I married Honey Babe. That's your friend. That's the one you know.
But to me, he's one guy. He's not Honey Babe to me.
It's not Honey Babe to you? Okay. No. Right, but Onegun is he's our creative. He's a creative artist, right? And he takes the form in my husband sometimes, and there's a clear difference between the two, as you know, Helmut, right? So yes, one of the questions that came up as I listened to Head in Hand, which, my God, I listen to it constantly, right? I'm out there running. It's such a great song. So if you guys haven't listened to it yet, it's an amazing song, and it really is a healing song. But one of the places in the song, I said to him, it almost feels like he's calling out the rose through the rose of creation. That's my only way I can describe it or explain it. So I wanted to know, do you guys think about frequency when you're creating music? I mean, say more about this frequency for people who don't know.
Well, let me talk, because I wanted to go back to something in Helmut. I believe you do this. We've never talked about it, but frequencies and sounds when I meditate. When you talk about going to you were in the scenario you were in Holland, and you guys did certain things to get things out, to release emotions, literally to feel better, right? You're trying to change your life. Now with me, I go to meditate, and when I think about it, or something gets really rough, or just not having a good day, I meditate. But when I do, and leading up to the frequencies and sounds, I have to meditate to something very calming. I like to meditate to rain or wind, because if I hear anything off-putting, like if I hear a note or musical note, it takes me there to listen to the music, and it takes me out of my meditative state. And even if it's listening to the, when they play those Asian gongs and things like that during meditation, they can distract me, right? They kind of take you out, especially if you're in that zone. We call it the
gap,
right? Anything can completely take you out of the gap. Mm-hmm. How do you feel when you meditate? And I'm assuming that you do. And what do you meditate to or with? Mm. Is it just nothing? Do you use music, or just,
is there a frequency? Is there a meditation frequency? Maybe is the question.
Look at how, when I started with this whole process of finding out about myself, self-development, I had no idea of the concept of meditation. It's like the movie here was running, and it was kind of an automatic, and there was no separation between what was going on in my mind, what was going on in my emotions, my body, my center. And that was part of the process to be there at this place and learning. And I had a spiritual master in India, and then that really opened the world of meditation up for me. Now, I've done many, many different techniques. And there's a technique where Vipassana, you sit for 7 days. Just sit and you have your eyes closed. And, that's one of those meditations that I really wouldn't want to do, because it drives me crazy. But there are other meditations. There are other meditations where, for example, dynamic meditation, where you first breathe intensely 15 minutes, then you jump up, and then you completely cassette. You let go, you freak out, whatever's got, beat pillows, whatever. And that's the second stage. And the third stage is you jump on your heels, and then it's a stop on the table, and then there's 15 minutes of silence. And then these 15 minutes is where meditation kind of happens. You don't do it, you just watch it, and you become the watcher. And the whole concept of becoming the watcher was something I had to learn. I had no idea about this before. And I tell you what, if you're talking about now mental health and education, Dalai Lama just recently said, if we had every person at the age learning about meditation, there would be no more war, there would be no more world hunger, there would be no more any bullshit, because once you wake up, once you become aware of spirit, of the force of, people call it God, whatever you want to call it, you will not be able to be an idiot, So all these people who are right now running us and running, it's idiot for all these people now who are running our shows, the politicians and all these nutcases, the greedy people, they have never learned about meditation, and never learned about loving themselves, and they never learned about loving others. And that is really I believe, the biggest healing that we can give the world, that people learn about meditation so that they can learn themselves and love others.
Yeah.
I remember Deepak Chopra talking about that. I don't know if it was...
Deepak Chopra talked about that, exactly.
Yeah, and he said he wanted the world to meditate all together at a certain time. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if he said, is it going to be monthly? How do you get that deep into it? But wouldn't that be amazing if you could have the entire world do that at the same time? There might be an earthquake.
We actually did something back then. We created a thing called a love meditation. And what we did was, it was things called social meditations, we called them. One was love meditation, tantra meditation, the rabbit hunt meditation. So kind of all kind of different things. And we did the love meditation because we had all these centers all over the world, and we actually started doing them at a certain time all together. And I don't know, did it make a difference or not? I don't know, but the energy was very powerful, And there are people in Thailand, I know that they're sitting with 1 million people, young people, and they all meditate at the same time. So I believe that, has an influence on the balance of energy and awareness on the planet, where the dark side is putting down, and they have all the tools to their, available to them. So the more white light stuff is going on, we can give them a run for their money.
That's why I said earthquake. It's going to shake. It would literally shake the earth.
It could change. Well, it's interesting that you guys are talking about meditation or even being in the gap, which is, kind of that space, right? That universal space. Because we've talked about that in terms of music, right? That you call it when the band falls into, what do you call that? Falling into the pocket.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
In the pocket.
Yeah. When you guys are grooving in the pocket, right? You guys are all kind of in that meditative, universal space. And what's great is us as the audience, we're right there. Like you're literally, and everybody's just feeling it. Right. So I think that music, back to how and where does it heal? It heals while you're meditating. It heals while we're dancing. A lot of people say, I go to dance so I can escape and just, be with my fellow man. Right. When we came out of 2020, oh my God, we were just like, I remember the first band we went out and saw. I was like, oh, look, they're having a party for us. Right.
Oh, right.
We were so happy to just be out and dancing and being together with our fellow man.
Again, healing therapy.
Exactly. Yeah. It was very healing.
Yeah. Yep. From what I understand, the word therapist means it's a Greek origin and actually means friend. And in that sense, when you say I'm a therapist, yes, I love people and I'm a good friend to people, and making music for me is part of that because I share my heart, I share my love through the medium of the instrument with the audience. And so it completely makes sense that therapy is connected to music because it's creating bridges.
Right. Yeah. That it's an exchange of, and I often say, you guys don't understand. Well, you understand what you're doing, but in the moment, the impact, right, of the audience and kind of the gift that we're receiving as part of it, it's pretty amazing. But Onegun, you never answered my question about the that frequency in the rose of creation on the song. I gotta know this. Like, did you, when you were calling out, right, to the creator, asking for, for answers to your questions, was that frequency? And I don't know if you know the part of it. Maybe you guys can play the song on your own. But Helmut, it's the part where he's talking about
kind of toward the end.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Yeah. I wish we could play it. But
just don't understand what you did to me. Do to me, it's so wrong, but I understand.
Yeah, well, and that's why I was specific about the song. When I think about it, it's like, we are created from somewhere. Okay. And the only knowledge that we have on earth is mother, father, so that's why I went to that realm. And I feel like, there's a lot of songs you listen to, and tell me if this is true for you, Helmut. You're listening to it, you've heard it before, but there's certain parts you wait to come up. And then you might even be done with the song, right? But when you play it, there's a certain line, there's a, like the, I can't think of the name of the group, but Phil, what was his name? Phil Collins.
Uh-huh.
It starts out really mild and then it drops with the drums, and people they do that in movies. They imitate.
I can
song.
Feel it coming in the air tonight.
Right.
That's the song.
Right. So that's what she's really speaking to when I yell out to the Father, really yelling out to Mother, Father, Earth consistently. Mm-hmm. She's like, where did that kid come from? And I'm like, sometimes you're writing a song and you say, man, I'm stuck. Mm-hmm. What do I put right here? And if I don't do anything, would it be boring? Would I lose the listener? We got to go through that in our minds. And it was just at that point where I said, I'll just call out to the creator, you know, whether it's mother, father, I'm talking to the same entity. Okay.
Mhm.
So that's what she's really speaking to. And I don't know where that comes from. You just do it, right? When you're writing, you're in the studio, you say to people, hey, you know, vocalists, you know, do something right here. Give me an ad lib, or, you know, musician, saxophonist, give me a solo right here. I wasn't going to put it there at first, but I'm going to put a sax solo here. Sometimes it's to waste space. Sometimes it's to add a different dynamic, or sometimes it just comes to you out of nowhere. And that's a hard question to answer. How did this come to me out of nowhere? Well, more than likely the creator.
Yeah, I know. Does any of this come? What does any of it comes from? You know, I mean, you have a musical ear, but
yeah. And I always talk about, because you were talking about one person, and you're talking about, I kind of have the same concept. Like we're three. I say to myself, maybe people with schizophrenia aren't so far off because they hear voices, right? And that's what we do. We've got the head in the middle. We've got the right shoulder, right side trying to tell you to do one thing. The left is arguing with it, and we're supposed to be this reasoning. There's supposed to be this reasoning middle that makes a decision. So I always base things on that, like where am I going to go with this? And then you start hearing ideas and voices and thoughts in your head. Well, you can do it this way, or you can do it this way, but we got to get something done. And then there's someone that makes a decision. So
Right.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but you sparked that thought when you were talking about how many, I almost call it like voices in the head, right? How it's switching from this to that, how it's changing your mindset in real time,
In the creative process.
Mhm.
Interesting. Yeah.
we spoke about this before, creative process, and especially when you are in a artistic creative process. Let's say music, or being a painter, the first stroke that goes onto the canvas, or the first word that you're writing, or the title on your book, whatever the creative process is. I always love to use that concept of creativity and transpose it onto our daily life. So that when you are in any situation, you can apply creativity to any situation. And I think that gives us an enormous freedom, because if we are in any situation and our unconscious mind runs us, and the movies that are going on the head run us, and we're actually not aware that we are being controlled by that, we have no choice. But when we have that awareness of a creative freedom, of a possibility to make different choices, which means you need to be in your center to do that, then you can apply creativity to any situation. And that gives us an enormous, as I said, freedom.
Yeah. Actually, that was pretty profound, and I think pretty accurate. I have one question for both of you, and you're gonna laugh at this question. It's silly. What's your favorite song
Favorite song in general?
in general? Do you have a favorite song?
No, I can't say. I don't think so. There's so many songs that I love. You know, I like Mahler, I love Beethoven and Mozart, and I love all the, the 60s, 70s rock guys. I love all the funk jazz guys, Chick Corea and Wayne Shorter and all of these dudes. And none really made lately, except one guy. I don't have so many heroes anymore. But because musically it seems to have declined a little bit from what we grew up with. But so I don't have a one song. If I had to hear only one song for the rest of my life, I would have to just think about it some more. I don't know.
That might drive me crazy.
Yeah.
One song.
One song, no.
Well, I would have to say that, I have to say it. My favorite song right now is Hand in Hand, my latest release.
I agree. That was
Only because of the feeling and the generality of it, if I'm saying that correctly. It's so because I wrote the song to speak to everybody and no one individually.
Yeah.
So that's, I would say, right now.
Right. Yeah.
Because it changes. It can change.
It changes, yeah. And it's always great. It's always great when you love your own music the best. And that's like this for me. There's
Well, it kind of feels like, yeah, sometimes it's kind of like a craving, right? Where you crave something like, I'm in the mood for this. I'm craving salt, for example. And sometimes it's interesting. I feel like I crave a particular song, and I've been craving Head in Hands a lot. It's a good exercise song. It's a good spiritual song. Right? I feel like it speaks to a lot. So one of the things I wanted to remind everyone, it is Mental Health Awareness Month. And as a result, what we did is we created a brain behavior event. So if you guys have not seen it yet, I've sent out the information. We'll share the link here today. But Onegun and Honey Babe, my hero, right, has offered to, if you buy the song, as part of it, we will share 50% of the proceeds for that song. Don't stream it, buy it, okay? Then 50% of the proceeds will go to our brain behavior music event. So we're going to share that link here with everyone. And
50% of the proceeds will go to brain and behavior research.
Yeah.
And remember, everyone, when we talk about a cure for schizophrenia, people have a laugh. Like, you guys are going to find a cure for schizophrenia. Yeah. Well, we're searching for it, and we're working with the people that are doing the research and talking to them and finding out information that we tried to bring back to you in this podcast. So, that song, 50% of the proceeds will go to the Brain and Behavior Research Foundation. And again, we're going to find a cure.
Yeah, we're looking for a cure.
Because if it gets streamed, it goes through both the team. And so if it gets
I wasn't going to tell you. We all win, right?
Like it, stream it, go donate to the Brain Behavior. Become a part of what we're doing here. Because to your point, we're trying to create a safe space where we can have just open dialogue and open conversation. There's no rock that we're going to leave unturned here. So, Helmut, we really appreciate you coming today and giving us this perspective. I'm, super grateful. And, after we are done here, I'm going to go Google everything that we talked about, figure out a little bit more about this, release and emotion therapy. I think it's pretty profound. So thank you for sharing that.
And thanks for getting my latest single released and out there.
Always a pleasure.
Yes.
Awesome.
We know that, all of our families are struggling with mental illness. I believe, that's just my personal opinion, we all have someone in our family that's struggling, but in the meantime,
this is how we're functioning.
So we'll see you guys next time on Functioning, and until then, stay safe. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks, Helmut, once again.
Bye, Helmut.
See you soon.
Thank you. Goodbye. Much love to you. Bye-bye.
You too.